let's talk a little bit about Julian Assange, who you've tweeted about a little bit recently. Why is it bad for Assange to be extradited to the United States?
So I'll tell you this story. Julian Assange is a friend of mine. I visited him in the Ecuadorian embassy where the CIA spied on us, and there's videotape of that happening and part of lawsuits. But he, I think, is probably the singular figure who is the most pioneering and innovative and consequential journalist of our generation. And the fact that he has been imprisoned effectively for more than a decade, despite having never been convicted of a crime other than the misdemeanor of bail jumping, which is when he sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, is kind of shocking when you think about it. But I'll just tell you a quick story, which was at the beginning of WikiLeaks, when they first did the Iraq and Afghanistan war logs, that revealed a lot of previously secret war crimes and the diplomatic cables. Somebody who was a very integral to WikiLeaks, who was a very wealthy person from a Northern European country, came to Brazil where I was and met with me. And he said he was pulling out of WikiLeaks because they had become obviously extremely, not just controversial, but persecuted by various governments. And what he told me was, and it's kind of amazing as an American to hear people in like Western Europe thinking this and saying this. He said, my greatest fear is not that my own government is going to knock on my door. I don't have any fear of that. I believe in the rights and the protections that they would give me. My greatest fear is that my government's going to knock on my door and say, we're turning you over to the Americans, and I'm going to end up in the American justice system. And, you know, I remember feeling kind of amazed by that. Like, the last place you ever want to be is the American justice system when you're accused of national security crimes. And then once I got heavily involved with Snowden, I saw, you know, there are laws that are written, like the Espionage Act of 1917 by Woodrow Wilson, designed to criminalize dissent of the U.S. role in World War I. They called it espionage if you even hand a single secret over. It was what Daniel Ellsberg was charged with, and he wanted to get on the stand and say, I was justified in doing it, and the court shut him down. There's no defense to it. They get put in these Eastern Virginia courtrooms where all the judges are hardcore national security hawks, and all the jurors are, you know, CIA contractors and defense contracts, because they live in that part of, that's where they purposely bring them, and conviction is all but guaranteed. And it is kind of odd. You think, like, why does Assange keep appealing? All he's doing is lingering in a British prison. He's not getting out. But the big fear that he's always had, for understandable reasons, is ending up on American soil, disappeared into an American dungeon. We have a pretty harsh prison system compared to a lot of other countries, and his conviction would be all but guaranteed.
Do you think that first kind of wave of WikiLeaks exposés, was that a major turning point in journalistic history, as opposed to, you know, certainly in world history and things like that? And if so, what did it do? And is it really powerful, or is it just kind of a flea on an elephant's back?
Here's why I think it's so innovative and so consequential. Because if you think about what a healthy democratic society would be, and you can go back and look at the founding documents of the United States or things that were said at the time, is you're supposed to have a government that knows almost nothing about the citizenry. We're not supposed to have a government that keeps dossiers on us. We're not supposed to have a government that knows everything about us. That's why we're called private citizens. The only way they're supposed to know anything about us is in the rare case they go to a court and get a search warrant and then can listen on our calls. But the presumptive rule is they shouldn't know anything about us. And conversely, we're supposed to know everything about what they do. That's why they're public officials. They're public, exercising public power. And a couple of exceptions, again, when there's war, obviously, if they have troop movements or strategies, that can't be known. But the presumption is supposed to be that we know everything that they're doing. This has been completely reversed in the United States and in the West generally, so that we have, as we know, a government that has a massive indiscriminate surveillance system aimed at the American people, collecting immense amounts of information about every citizen, regardless of whether we've done anything wrong. And increasingly, they have these tools that allow them to hide everything behind this wall of secrecy. When I was doing the Snowden story, and it took 3 years to read through, you know, millions of top secret documents from our U.S. security state, one of the things that surprised me the most was that every single document, even the most banal, like how you get a parking credential, how you apply for vacation if you work at the NSA, was just automatically marked top secret. It's like reflexively, they hide everything that they do. So it's reverse. We know nothing about what our government is doing, except the theater they let us see, and they know everything about what we're doing. What WikiLeaks did was say, okay, we need a way to blow the hole through that wall of secrecy they've constructed. And what Julian Assange realized before anybody else was that the big vulnerability that they have is now that all information is stored digitally, it's very easy to just handed out that is how we were going to, these big, massive leaks were the future of journalism.